Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another newsletter exclusive podcast. If you're encountering this podcast anywhere other than my newsletter, head on over to KimberlyNicoleFoster.co and subscribe. That's where you'll find all of the extras, my full write-up with the links and the video clips and anything that I forgot while I was recording. That's where it all is. The newsletter is here because the girls are tired of algorithms, okay? We're tired of scrolling. We're tired of our brains being controlled by the tech overlords. And so we want a dedicated spot. And that's where it is for me, okay? Let's get into it. So Beyonce's Cowboy Carter was the most nominated album at the Grammys. Nominated for lots of genre awards. She won an award for the duet with Miley Cyrus. The song is called Two Most Wanted. She also won Best Country Album, and she seemed genuinely surprised. I think Beyonce was genuinely surprised. I don't know why. To my mind, these wins are about math. In a genre award where Beyonce is the standout, and she's Beyonce, if she's with four other less well-known country artists, those country artists are going to split votes. And so she's going to be able to consolidate all of the other votes. It just made sense to me that the four country artists would be fighting amongst themselves and then she would get everybody else. This was a good win. It was a well-deserved win. Though Cowboy Carter wasn't my favorite album last year, I am so glad it happened. No one can say she didn't deserve it. There are lots of reasons why Cowboy Carter was Album of the Year. There are solid sonic arguments. In other words, we can talk about the quality of the singing. We can talk about the production. We can talk about the sequencing of the album. We can talk about the ambition and the scale of the album. Now, I'm going to say, for me, just side note, for me, the album was overstuffed. I think the album was too long. I think the album needed to be edited. However, there's a lot of really good stuff happening there. And you can make a good case using that stuff. You can also make a good case for why Cowboy Carter was Album of the Year, if you want to go on the cultural side. We can talk about the light that Beyonce was able to shed on the Black roots of American country music and how she was able to bring these other country artists into the fold, into the conversation. She was so early on Shaboozey. I think that deserves a round of applause. The fact that she had Shaboozey on that album right before he had a record-breaking run on the Billboard Hot 100, he either tied or broke the record for most weeks at number one with Tipsy. And whoever is working with Beyonce, the A&R, for them to be able to see Shaboozey, note that Beyonce is working on a country album, bring Shaboozey to Beyonce recognize it and integrate Shaboozey into the album. I just think the foresight of that is actually very, very remarkable. Cowboy Carter is expertly crafted. Beyonce, when she released that press release, said that this was the best music she's ever made. I think there are parts of this album that are the best music that she's ever made. I think the opening, American Requiem, is the best opener of any Beyonce album, hands down. I appreciate Cowboy Carter more as a historical document than a piece of music that I would listen to on repeat. I'm glad that she released the tour announcement before the Grammys and didn't wait until afterwards. She set her own narrative there. You know, the big deal with Taylor last year was she announced Tortured Poets Department during her acceptance speech for her record-breaking 4th Album of the Year win. What does this mean? To me, Beyonce finally winning this award, it signals that the Grammys, the Recording Academy, the body that votes on these awards, view Beyonce as a legacy artist. I said in the piece, Beyonce is the last great American institution. I will link it down below. Shout out to everybody who shared it and read it. That Beyonce occupies such rarefied air because she is making contemporary music that's going to be on the charts. And she's a legacy artist. I think I saw something that said she won Album of the Year 25 years after receiving her first Grammy nomination for Destiny's Child. And there is something about the Grammys historically that have been hesitant to award young Black people. Young white people, right, can win the big awards. You got to be a seasoned saint to win. And that also, to me, that's why it makes sense that Kendrick would win those big awards, because Kendrick is also now a seasoned saint. Both Beyonce and Kendrick are in their safe era. Kendrick is about to perform at the Super Bowl. And now you have the premier governing body of recorded music in the United States saying, okay, all right, we can give you stuff. And I know that the president of the Recording Academy, he's, I think, the first Black president. He's like, we're ushering in a new age and whatever. And that's why The Weeknd was on there. The Weeknd was on there to promote his tour. Let's be real. But they've decided that Beyonce is old enough, seasoned enough, mature enough, safe enough to give the big award to. But I also will say that this is another math problem. I was sitting with my boyfriend watching the show and I said it's going to be Beyonce because the pop girls are going to split votes. When you have Sabrina, Chapel, Billie Eilish, was Shakira in the category? Who else was in there? Oh, Taylor, of course. That's people who are into that kind of thing. That's going to split votes. So it makes it easier for, and I don't know, who's the DJ? I don't know who that is. In Andre 3000, we've already gone over this. That's a joke. That leaves a big pool of votes for Beyonce to consolidate. In my mind, the album of the year was Chapel Roan, Diary of a Midwest Princess, from top to bottom, beginning to end. Perfect, stunning, incredible songwriting, catchy bops, interesting point of view, thoughtful, introspective, fun, funny, cheeky, playful. Perfection. But Chapel will be back. I'm not crying for her. So we can talk about the narrative. I always chuckle a bit when people posit this as being Beyonce versus the Grammys. No. Beyonce and the Grammys have a symbiotic relationship. They need each other. They feed off of each other. If we can go back a year, we saw Beyonce launching the Cowboy Carter era at the Grammys when she was dressed up in whatever she was dressed up in. And she was sitting in the audience as her husband accepted the second annual Dr. Dre Global Impact Award. And he used his time on stage with Blue Ivy right beside him to, quote, call out the Recording Academy for giving Beyonce all of these Grammys, but never awarding her the Album of the Year Grammy. I found that to be so I just roll my eyes at that. I mean, on one hand, we love a supportive partner, I guess. We don't have to get too much into this, but like the way that you show righteous indignation is by not showing up. To me, that is really when Beyonce's Album of the Year campaign began, with her husband on stage, her sitting in the audience with the Cowboy Carter gear, and he was trying to make it like he's embodying righteous indignation and he's standing up for what is right, but to me, I read it as supplication. We can take a little detour here. My difficulty with Cowboy Carter as an album is because it seemed tailored to have a big Album of the Year moment. It seemed like a statement directed at the world, okay, but really a statement directed at the Recording Academy. While I find a lot of the music to be stunning, it also feels a little cynical to me. Beyonce created this album, released the press release, which essentially functions as liner notes, and dared these people not to give her awards. And some of the people said, we don't care. That was the big CMA's debacle or whatever. But the Grammys said, okay, here you go. And that's fine. I'm so past viewing Beyonce winning awards or not winning awards as some kind of racial justice issue. It's just not that. But it's certainly an interesting turn in culture, the way that Beyonce and Sean Carter engage with the Grammys as an institution. They love the Grammys, and JC literally said that. They recognize the institution as legitimate. They respect and value those prizes. There is no rebellion. They're very much disciplined. They're very much in line. Now, I did think it was interesting that Beyonce didn't perform, but Beyonce don't perform no more. Beyonce said, I'll see you on tour. And that's fine. The other thing I find to be really interesting about this is how Beyonce carefully constructs her narrative and myth making. And the album of the year, Snub, the refusal of the Recording Academy to give her this award, has been central to her narrative for many years. Since 2010, I think, was the first time she was nominated. Even though she's collected almost every single gem for her music superstar, cultural icon crown, the fact that she doesn't have that one, or she didn't before last night have that one, absolutely vexed her. This idea that she was unbothered or she didn't care, that's bullshit. It comes up in the music because she cares. We get the press release because she cares. I mean, she's a caring ass bitch, but you should expect the world's greatest living entertainer to be a caring ass bitch, right? You should expect somebody as committed to craft and excellence and who knows the ins and outs and the history of music as well as Beyonce to care. I actually don't hold that against her at all. She wanted it badly. She pursued it. She got it. We love that for her. Now, I have to be honest with ya. I thought the speech was lacking. I guess it's a bit much to expect the world's greatest living entertainer to also be a master rhetorician, but the speech just didn't give anything. Fragments. Barely coherent. You guys, okay. I guess after that press release, the press release that references Baudrillard, right? And talks about history, connecting the past and the present, and exploitation and erasure and exclusion and self-determination. I guess I just expected a couple sentences, maybe not even a paragraph, a half paragraph of profound thought. I don't know, y'all. She's a human. She maybe was genuinely surprised. But I'm like, you didn't have nothing rolling around in your head at all? I was definitely let down by that. Final things about the context of this. I do appreciate deeply that Beyonce broke a long-standing tradition of the Grammys of Black women being the most nominated or creating these incredible bodies of work that get all of these nominations, and then the Black women don't win the big awards. I thought it was crazy that SOS, as huge as that album was, did not win any of the big awards. I thought it was crazy that Anti, Rihanna's best album by far, an astounding piece of work, didn't win anything. I don't think it won anything the year that it was nominated, but it was among the most nominated projects that year. It's just really a big thing for Black artists at the Grammys, right? I'm pointing this out, but I'm also, again, past the point of investing in the Grammys and calling it out as a racial recovery, racial justice. You point out the trends, you point out the history, but it's a TV show, I have said for years that what connects Beyonce and Quincy Jones is their ability to execute huge scale visions and do so at the highest level. And so to me, it seemed very fitting that Beyonce won her Album of the Year Grammy at the same telecast where there was that big Quincy Jones tribute. We don't have to talk about the tribute. And actually, let's not. Let's move on. Anyways, Cowboy Carter, astounding scale, incomparable vision, insane execution, even if not perfect execution, but really stunning execution. Shout out to Shabuzi being on the song. Shout out to Sweet Honey Buckin'. Shout out to Bodyguard, American Requiem. I already shouted it out. I love Daughter. I love My Rose. I like Riverdance, even though I don't think it belongs on this album. Two Hands to Heaven. Two Most Wanted. And last but not least, shout out to Yaya, the best song on the album, and the reason why I will be purchasing tickets to see the Cowboy Carter show. Because Yaya, if she does the full version, if she does a 2-minute version, I feel really confident that that will be worth the high-ass price of admission, because you know it's going to be high, because it's only like 15 shows. Beyonce doesn't really want to tour anymore. I am glad that Beyonce can have this round out this section of her career. I'm also glad that we can hopefully move on from this fake conversation about should Black artists boycott? They're not boycotting. They want Grammys real bad, okay? They do. They do. They think that the Grammys have disrespected them continually over several years, decades. They still are going to come to the show. They're still going to perform because they want Grammys. Do I hold that against them? No, not at all. Not one bit. But I do think if we're going to keep going, keep submitting, keep performing, let's just have a different conversation about it. You want it. You want the thing. I don't fault you for wanting the thing, but stop bullshitting us. Oh, dang it. I'm supposed to end this on a high note. Let's end it on Bodyguard. Okay, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.